The biggest question you have to ask yourself going into our post-rotation meta is if a Venusaur dumps in the jungle and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound? Also, it's not what's the best deck post-rotation, but rather which version of Dragapult is the best deck post-rotation. Pretty much since the moment rotation hit Japan back in January, Dragapult was number 1 with Mega Lucario in second. After that though, things have changed more than a nervous teen before a first date. As you can see from these tier lists compiled by Book, the Japanese meta has seen several different decks come and go from the A and B tiers, including Raging Bolt, Mewtwo, Okidogi, and more. Footed with this information, I can accurately tell you the top 10 decks heading into our next format, which begins on March 26th in Pokemon TCG Live and April 10th IRL. Because I don't want this to be a 69-minute video, I won't tell you exactly how to play the decks as if they're brand spanking new. Instead, I'll try to go over what's gone, what's new, and what's coming in Chaos Rising this May. One of the reasons why Dragapult has been so dominant is that there's no one singular perfect list, giving everybody a chance to counter it with 1 or 2 cards. Instead, you can play Dragapult with Dusknoir, Blaziken, Kangaskhan, Clefairy, and even Noctowl. So if somebody tries to counter you, you can counter them like TM18. It's infuriating, meaning no matter how much testing you do or how many Clefairy you play, they can just Dusknoir your Clefairy, then use Phantom Dive pings to clean it up. As you probably could have guessed, the best version of Dragapult post-rotation continues to be the Dusknoir one. There's multiple different variations of the build, but this is pretty close to what you want. Because of Psyduck, you don't go too insane on Dusknoir. Dragapult's the main focus, which is why there's 2 Crispin and a Rosa's encouragement to try and get it powered up as soon as possible. Meowth, meanwhile, offers up a lot of flexibility. Use Ultra Ball, grab Meowth, then Last Ditch Catch for any of your 7 different supporters. Crispin and Rosa are for energy, Dawn and Brock are for Pokemon, and Petrel is for any trainer. This is important because Petrel can get Unfair Stamp or Team Rocket's Watchtower. Unfair Stamp is the strongest ace-back post-rotation, potentially winning you the game by giving them an unplayable hand. Watchtower, ironically, shuts off their Meowth in addition to Kangaskhan, Dunsparce, Noctowl, Ursaluna, and every other colorless Pokemon. If you want to take a risk with PTCGL pricing, I have seen first place Japanese list run a 1-1 Noctowl. Additionally, for those who get turned on by the number 69 and like math, Briar can get you an extra prize when KOing someone with Phantom Dive's 200 damage. And don't forget about Area 0. It's not necessarily here because you want a massive bench, it's more for defense. Plop Area 0 down, put more basics in play, then next turn bump it with Watchtower, removing any of your 2 prize liabilities. Now, it is worth noting that Dragapult has lost some power with rotation. Ino and Countercatcher leaving means Dusknoir blowing itself isn't as disruptive. It's still insane, but now you can't blow a Dusknoir to activate Countercatcher, which means Boss's Orders is your only Gust card now. No Lucha means KOing Psyduck takes longer, and Luminous Energy leaving puts more of an emphasis on Crispin if you want to run Munkidori. Then there's the Blaziken build. With the Hot Chicken accelerating energy from the discard pile every turn, it's much easier to utilize Munkidori. You can also run Lillie's Clefairy for the mirror matchup, powering it up in 1 turn. And Blaziken being a fire type is perfect for Mega Venusaur and any metal decks that pop up. Best of all, since you already need Psychic and Fire Energy for Phantom Dive, you don't have to add anything. Realistically, the only weakness of this version is that it has 2 stage 2s. But with Forge or Cloak, you're drawing a ton of cards every turn. I will mention that I'm not a fan of the 0 Air Balloon and 0 Switch. But your goal is to attack with Budew turn 1, so wasting an energy to retreat, which Blaziken then re-accelerates, is fine. Otherwise, you can swap Jamming Tower for Watchtower if Meowth is giving you trouble. And while this build has Shaman and Psyduck to cover your bases, you can always remove them for more consistency. The funniest thing about Dragapult is that this was the best performing list at Japan's 7,000 player tournament. There's no Dusknoir or Blaziken, instead focusing on Crispin, Kangaskhan, and Clefairy. Area 0 makes another appearance for defense, utilizing Chen Pao to bump it. Finally, the new cards. Perfect Order only adds 2 in Meowth and Rosa's encouragement. Meowth gets a supporter, while Rosa's accelerates 2 energy onto a stage 2 if you're behind on prizes. With Super Rod gone from standard, Crispin becomes less useful the longer the game goes. Rosa not only encourages you to blow up your Dusknoir, but she re-accelerates any energy you lost early. Then when Chaos Rising comes out in May, there's just 1 addition, Special Red card. This forces your opponent to shuffle their hand, put it on the bottom of their deck, then draw 3 cards. Thankfully, it only works if they have 3 or fewer prizes remaining, but it makes Dusknoir even stronger. So hope you don't prize your Psyduck, which basically every deck will need to play. Because the first Chaos Rising tier list in Japan shows that Dragapult has no plans of slowing down and will continue to dominate in Standard until it rotates in 370 days. Unlike Dragapult, there's really only one way to play Mega Lucario. And it's not only amazing, but pretty much what you've been using already. The only decision you have to make is how hairy you like your mamas. The core strategy also remains the same. Turn 1, use Fighting Gong to find basics and energy, using Lunatone to discard an energy to draw 3. If you're going second, you'll most likely end that first turn attacking with Zoroark, potentially KOing a Dreepy or Abra. After that, put a Mega Lucario into play, then Aura Jab for 130 or more with Premium Power Pro and Maximum Belt. In doing so, you can prep another Lucario to use Mega Brave and take a huge KO. Or if the first Lucario survives, it's good to go the following turn with another manual attachment. A manual attachment that could be the new Rocky Fighting Energy, protecting it from effects of attacks like Alakazam's. Unfortunately, Alakazam is running 2 Enhanced Hammer for this exact reason, so its usefulness has fallen off a bit. Personally, I always like to have 2 hairy mamas at the same time. Some lists go for a 1-1 or even remove it altogether, but I say the hairier the better. When you evolve into Hariyama, you get a free boss's orders. Fezandipiti and Meowth will be everywhere post-rotation, effectively giving you free prizes. On top of the gusting, you can wildly press your body against someone, dealing 210 damage after Lucario Aura jabs 3 energy onto Hariyama. And that's about all there is to a Lucario deck in 2026. Since the last time I showed you post-rotation Lucario, Japanese players have gone for 4 Riolu and 3 or 4 Zoroark. There's also been a rise in Cypher Maniac's code-breaking usage, allowing you to stack 2 cards on top of your deck, then Lunatone into them. Of course, you can always mess around with the counts of cards, but regardless of what you do, Mega Lucario hits hard, and unlike PDCGL, requires very little maintenance. The second best way to play Lucario is with Heroescape. Give it 440 hit points, hope they aren't playing a Psychic deck, then use Wally's Compassion to heal it. There is a Cornerstone Masked Ogerpon here for annoyance, though you could swap that for a Meowth or Fezandipiti if Wally isn't being very compassionate and keeps hiding in your deck. Similar to Dragapult, Meowth is a new Perfect Order card you should consider for Lucario, though it's not mandatory. Just like Rocky Fighting Energy, which doesn't do much except block Alakazam and maybe Munkidori's Confusion effect. And when Chaos rises in May, just add 1 special red card. Yeah, I wasn't being hyperbolic like a time chamber when I said 2026 is shaping up to be the worst year for Pokemon cards in a long time. This one might be controversial given what's happened recently, but in third place we have Alakazam, a deck that can beat both Dragapult and Lucario. By running 3 Battle Cage, you don't have to worry nearly as much about Phantom Dive pings from Dragapult, Munkidori chewing up your bench, or Dusknoir blowing somebody while they sit on a bench. Of course, Dragapult always has Jamming Tower when they need it, which is why Psyduck and Shaman become important as well. As for that whole dealing damage and taking knockouts thing, remember that Alakazam places 2 damage counters on their active for each card in your hand. Dunsparce, Fezandipiti, Kadabra, Alakazam, and Enriching Energy all help with that, allowing you to deal ridiculous amounts of damage as early as turn 2. Since Alakazam only needs a single Psychic to attack, the new Telepathic Psychic Energy is insane here. Attach Telepathic to any of your Psychic types and you can freely bench 2 Abra. If that wasn't enough, you can attach Enriching Energy to the Dunsparce, draw 4 cards, then shuffle it back into your deck. And what's been happening recently in Japan is players running Lucky Helmet, which draws 2 cards upon getting hit by damage. Though that does come at the cost of cutting Air Balloon. Unfortunately, because Alakazam's attack is in effect, they can block it with Mist or Rocky Energy, so you have to play at least 2 Enhanced Hammer in order to remove them. It sucks, I know, but when the alternative is losing, it's a necessary evil. Now, while Iono is gone and that alone is worth celebrating, we still have Judge and Unfair Stamp. You can't do much about Judge except hope they don't play it in their deck. For Unfair Stamp though, Ace Nullifier Genesect has been a mainstay. Attach any tool to Genesect, now they can't use their Ace spec. Obviously Unfair Stamp is the main one you're blocking, but it also means they can't use Prime Catcher or Hero's Cape or Neo Upper Energy either. It's just a great spicy tech to really assert your dominance. For the list, it can be a little scary at first. As you may have noticed, there isn't a single draw supporter. But with Hilda being able to grab any evolution and a telepathic or enriching energy, you should be fine. Otherwise, Dawn gets a basic stage 1 and stage 2. I personally will probably include a Lilies or 2 because I'm a coward. But if you can get through your first turn unscathed, Alakazam becomes an absolute powerhouse that stands toe-to-toe with every deck out there. All that being said, like me near a foot freshly dipped in honey, people have found Alakazam's weakness. While those who are broke would simply rely on Judge or Zerosic's Machinations to win, those who are woke run Team Rocket's Articuno. Because while Enhanced Hammer can bump Rocky or Mist Energy, Articuno has no such counter. Its ability perfectly blocks Alakazam's attack, completely walling you. The good news is that you'll win a stall game thanks to never decking out with the Dunsparce. The bad news is that all they need is a single Water Energy and Articuno can attack, though it's only dealing 60 damage. There's a couple ways around this. First, Twilight Masquerade Alakazam. Strange Hacking is just a good attack on its own, moving damage counters around however you want. Psychic, meanwhile, one-shots Articuno if they have 3 energy attached. Otherwise, this is the perfect opportunity to add a 1/1 Mega Lopunny. You will need to replace Lucky Helmet with Air Balloon, but it offers up an easy 230 damage for 1 energy. Finally, special red card coming in May. It doesn't kill Alakazam, it just means you have to be more strategic with keeping the Dunsparce in play, anticipating the drop to 3 cards. A recent first place list from Japan ran Airy to try and discard special red card, which at least gives you a chance. Just not necessarily a good one. Outside of the top 3, I could include most of these decks in any order and it'd be correct. Since it's seen more and more success with each passing day though, easily one-shotting all those smug megas, I'll put Raging Bolt in 4th. If you watch my decks that get worse with rotation video, this might shock you like you just tried to put your finger in Hisuian Electrode's butthole. But it's true. With the loss of Sada's vitality, Raging Bolt is worse. Thankfully, Crispin still exists, same with Ogerpon. Add in the fact that Raging Bolt is our new best way to one-shot megas with Golden Go gone, and you have somebody extremely powerful. Just maybe cross your toes extra hard that they aren't playing Alakazam. Aside from the loss of Sada, post-rotation Raging Bolt isn't all that different. Crispin is your new mommy, able to fully power up a Raging Bolt without having to worry about getting energy in the discard pile. And Teal Masked Ogerpon still uses its ability to accelerate grass energy onto itself, which you then discard with Bellowing Thunder. The only new card from Perfect Order is Meowth, who grabs any supporter from deck. Obviously that will be Crispin most times, but Judge and Cyrano are also considerations. Yes, in a world without Nest Ball, Cyrano becomes a highly playable card able to grab any 3 EXs from deck. There's a few slight variations on how to play Raging Bolt, but I prefer the one with Lillie's Clefairy. This gives you a way to one-shot Dragapult and Lucario for 2 energy, where otherwise Raging Bolt would need to discard 5 energy from play. Mega Kangaskhan's also an important part of the deck. Not only does it draw you 2 cards each turn, but it's another attacker who can deal big damage without discarding energy. In order to fit all these basics on your bench, Area Zero's here too. As a result, Chen Pao is always a great idea, removing anyone on your bench who you don't need anymore, like all those Meowth who become more useless than a Machoke when you don't have friends. And don't forget about Baby Bolt being able to snipe their bench. What's funny about Raging Bolt lists post-rotation is that you'll rarely find 2 that are exactly the same. No one can seem to decide on the counts of Meowth or Kangaskhan or Latias or Energy Switch or Glass Trumpet. Yeah, Glass Trumpet's cracked here, accelerating 2 energy from the discard pile to either Meowth or Kangaskhan. I've also seen lists running Carmine since going first is so strong. But make no mistake, despite getting weakened by rotation, Raging Bolt is an absolute powerhouse in 2026, even if it isn't always the focus of the deck. As for Chaos Rising, do I even have to say it? You add 1 special red card and call it a day. Real chaotic stuff there, Pokemon Company. If not for Zekrom and Ascended Heroes, and Zoroark would not be a thing post-rotation. And believe it or not, that's about the only new 2026 card you need to add to make this deck a top 10 threat. Yeah, Meowth is a good idea to help your setup and special red card will be everywhere. But in terms of unique cards to specifically help just Zoroark, there aren't any. On the flip side, Zoroark doesn't lose a whole lot to rotation. Because it has built-in card draw, so long as you have a good turn 1, the deck runs itself. After that, pick whichever attacker is best for the situation. Darmanitan is able to deal 90 to their active and 90 to someone on the bench, potentially KOing to Drakloak. Zekrom offers up a 250 damage attack that's boosted to 290 with Binding Mochi. And Reshiram's powerful Rage lets Zoroark deal over 400 damage if they come up short of a knockout. The other mainstays are Petrel to freely switch into a Zoroark, activating Binding Mochi in the process, as well as Cyrano to give you an amazing turn 2. Playing with En's PP is even more fun now that you can do it 3 times before he passes out. En's Casthole is always a joy to explore, freely retreating an En's Pokemon. And Black Belt's training means Zoroark is dealing 330 damage when you add in Mochi math. To prove a point about how rough 2026 is, this first place list doesn't need Meowth to win tournaments. Obviously, Meowth can get you a turn 1 Lillies or turn 2 Cyrano, but that moves for cowards. We believe in the heart of the cards in these parts. As I've been saying for a few months, all you need to be successful post-rotation is card draw and a cheap attack. It's why Dragapult's number 1. It's also why Zoroark's so high up. Janine and En's PP allow you to attack turn after turn. And recovering from an Unfair Stamp is super easy, kind of an inconvenience if you don't have Fezandipiti down and they knocked out your last Zoroark. Come Chaos Rising, to no one's surprise, you add 1 special red card. And yeah, I'll relent and say Meowth is good. Just make sure you have 2 or 3 Ultra Ball in your list to increase your chances of finding the kitty cat. Keeping things dark, like that episode of Game of Thrones everyone hated, in 6th place is Team Rocket's Honchkrow. As a wise man once said, those who do big damage for one energy beat off many strangers. Well, Honchkrow can one-shot every Mega in the game fairly easily, and it does this for a single energy attachment either with Team Rockets or Ignition. If you're wondering what Honchkrow loses to rotation, the answer is literally nothing. The list you play today is the same one you'll continue to use for the next 6 months. As a result, the strategy remains the same. Go first, use Proton to get basics. Between 4 Proton and 4 Transceiver, the odds are high for a great turn 1. After that, just hope one of your 8 energy shows up and take huge knockouts every turn, discarding supporters in the process. Honchkrow's also the only deck crazy enough to run Miracle Headset as the A-Spec, retrieving 2 supporters from the card graveyard after the Crow murders them. The biggest benefit with rotation is INO leaving. Now they can no longer INO you to 1 or 2 late. The worst they can do is judge you for preferring Yu-Gi-Oh over Pokemon, leaving you with 4 cards. Of course, Unfair Stamp is a problem, dropping you down to 2 cards. Playing smart and saving your best supporters like Ariana and Archer for the end of the game is your best move. Fezandipiti and Lucky Helmet are also options, albeit not great. Fez weakens Ariana while you can't manually find your helmet. What's wild is that Honchkrow is favored in pretty much every matchup. It's strong enough to one-shot a caped Venusaur, and it's fast enough to win the prize trade against Alakazam. It just might struggle finding energy, especially when you have to save an Ignition or 2 for Porygon 2 at the end of a game. As for Dragapult, Articuno protects your basics against Phantom Dive pings, so only evolve when necessary. Looking at Dusknoir, you can't play Psyduck here, so depending on the situation, don't be afraid to Giovanni up a Duskull or Dusclops early. While Honchkrow doesn't gain anything from Chaos Rising, it does have to worry about Special Red card. Again, just focus on keeping your Ariana count grande. Between that, Archer, and Factory, you should be okay. Or they put you into an unplayable hand and you find out why this is the 6th best post-rotation deck and not number 1. While I was right about Team Rocket's Mewtwo sucking in 2025, the opposite is true for 2026. No one could have seen this coming. But because the Pokemon Company decided to take the year off and not print any relevant supporters to replace the good ones we're losing with rotation, the Team Rocket's archetype benefits greatly. Just like with Honchkrow, you have Proton turn 1 to find your basics, then Ariana to drop to 8. And Archer is a better judge, giving you 5 and them 3, provided Team Rocket's Pokemon was just knocked out. Once again, losing nothing to rotation except maybe Earthen Vessel, and gaining nothing from Chaos Rising or Perfect Order, Mewtwo benefits from a great alternate attacker and Spidops. Not only can it deal 180 damage if your bench is full of Rocket's Pokemon, its ability gives you fodder for Mewtwo to erase someone's balls. Mimikyu also exists as a way to copy tears like Ogerpon and Dragapult, giving you a free retreater for Giovanni plays as well. Finally, Clefairy. As long as you don't start it, Clefairy's amazing here, letting Mewtwo hit dragons for weakness. And it can also attack after energy switching from a Spidops. Similar to Raging Bolt, there's multiple ways to play Mewtwo. I've seen successful builds with Secret Box or Hero's Cape as the A-Spec over Maximum Belt, while some people remove Factory entirely for Battle Cage. And craziest of all, somebody included 2 Teal Mask Ogerpon. But I'm going to keep it simple because we're all Pokemon card players here and thinking too hard hurts our brains. This is the most straightforward post-rotation Mewtwo list. Go first, hope for Proton to fill up your bench, then use Ultra Ball to get energy in the discard pile. You have a full suite of Team Rocket supporters along with Lillie's determination because she's just that good. You do top out at 330 damage, but hitting Dragapult and Lucario and Raging Bolt for weakness gives you a leg up like a dog near a fire hydrant. I know it's lower on the list than you probably expected, but Arboliva EX is the new hotness. The other decks paid their dues at the start of post-rotation play in Japan and deserve the spotlight. Arboliva merely swooped in on the girl you've been rizzing up all night at the last second, took her home, got her pregnant, and now you laugh at pictures they post on Instagram where they both look super tired yet feel a happiness you'll never experience. Calling this an Arboliva deck is a bit of a misnomer. It's a Meganium Ogerpon deck with Arboliva. Depending on the matchup, Arboliva is great at picking off weak targets provided they don't have Shaman down. Being able to deal 20 damage 6 different times for 1 energy on someone you can get into play turn 2 thanks to Force of Vitality, that means you can knock out a Budew and a Dreepy in the same turn. Or put 60 on 2 Dreepy hoping they whiff Rare Candy and destroy both of them at the same time next turn. Or you can simply set up KOs on higher HP Pokemon so long as they aren't Terra sitting on the bench. While you're slowly beating them off with Arboliva, Ogerpon is powering itself up in the corner, ready to bring them to completion. With Meganium doubling your grass energy, Ogerpon only needs 3 on itself to deal 240 damage. And any energy on your opponent's active boosts that by 30. So yes, you will need to do math with this deck. Before I show you the list, I need to point something out. Even though it was unofficial, the only gym Ash never beat was AJ's, the stand true guy who wanted 100 wins. Everyone else he eventually rematched and won against. Also, while almost every Arboliva list has the same 56 or 57 cards, there are a few flex options. End's Plan is a double energy switch, and Cypher Maniac can stack your deck. But if I had to pick one supporter to add, it'd be Briar. Being able to get a free prize when taking a KO with Ogerpon cannot be overlooked, especially when Arboliva can help you set it up. Alright, come rotation, this is what you want Arboliva to look like. One of the two Meowth can be found off of Ultra Ball, allowing you to choose between Lilies or Dawn early. And since Unfair Stamp is the A-Spec over Max Rod, Lana's Aid is here for recovery. And that's about all there is to say about it. This is a Stage 2 grass deck that relies on Forest of Vitality, a card you can't manually search for. If you can get a Forest by turn 2 though, along with Dawn, it's insane. If you can't, well, that's what Briar's for. Oh, and if you couldn't guess, add one special red card when Chaos Rising's out. I was going to put Mega Venusaur in the 9 hole, but I just covered an Ogerpon Meganium deck with a Stage 2 grass type. Take Arboliva out of the previous list, add Venusaur, and you're done. Obviously, Wally's Compassion can be used to give someone a complete mental breakdown, especially if you run 4 copies. Aside from the healing aspect and energy switching though, it's fairly similar to Arboliva. And yes, it does hurt my soul to say something nice about Mega Venusaur, but not even I, the handsomest PDCGL player in the land, can deny it's not helped immensely by the loss of Golden Go. Instead of Venusaur, I'll cover Grimmsnarl here. Usurping Mega Starmie as the best Frostlass partner, it is hit by rotation. Like Dragapult, it loses access to Countercatcher for easily picking and choosing targets. Artisan being gone sucks when it comes to finding Munkidori, but that's what Poké Pad's for. Despite the losses, the strategy is largely the same. Get Munkidori in play, use Frostlass to spank them, sending damage counters to your opponent's side of the field. Spikemyth, meanwhile, not only bumps a bothersome Battle Cage, but gets your Morgrem and Grimmsnarl for free. I guess the only other thing to mention is that Petrel is a 4-of here to replace Arven. At the very least, he does find Spikemyth, and I guess also a Lilies for next turn if you have a bad start. Just be aware that you won't be able to do any more board-wiping de-evolution plays, meaning Grimmsnarl will have to take knockouts. While the most successful lists only run a 2-2 line of Frostlass, the majority of us will be playing this on TCG Live. So a 3-3 line is a requirement to avoid getting screwed over by prizes. Provided you get a decent start, Grimmsnarl should be strong. But the longer I look at the list, the more I think it's not as good as people in Japan say, especially with so much Teal-Masked Ogerpon out there. But that's why the 3 Frostlass is a good idea, because they might see you're playing Grimmsnarl, overload on Ogerpon, and get punished as you slowly melt them away like an Obama snowman in spring. Of course, special red card gets added to this deck with Chaos Rising. However, if you were hoping for the Book of Transformation Mega Absol combo to be a thing, well, no one in Japan has had the heavy balls to try it out yet. Probably because it isn't as good as it seems in our heads. If you've made it this far into the video, you know how important Clefairy is going to be post-rotation. This card gives you a way to one-shot Dragapult, Lucario, and Raging Bolt, all of whom are in the top 5. So why not build a deck around it? Clefairy only needs a Psychic and a Colorless to deal big damage. Ogerpon accelerates an energy onto itself, and Energy Switch exists. Add in Meowth to find a supporter, and Kangaskhan to draw 2 cards every turn, and you have something that almost solely exists to counter the meta. There's a few ways to approach a Terra Box deck in our next format. You can go for the full 4 Crispin, ensuring you always have energy to attack, or rely a bit more on Lilies and Energy Switch. It's less explosive, but might mean less bad hands. Additionally, you have to decide if you're feeling lucky. If you recently suffered a similar accident to me where a horseshoe made its way into your butt, run Telepathic Psychic Energy. This way you can get a free Clefairy and Latias, you just have to already have one of them in play while also naturally drawing in a Telepathic since there's no way to manually search for it. Otherwise, go with Cyrano, which you can easily find thanks to the multiple Meowth. The last piece of business is Area 0. Clefairy does damage based on the number of bench Pokemon in play. If you have the full 8 and they have 5, that's 280 damage for not a lot of effort. Then there's Lily's Pearl. While I'm a huge fan of Tool, especially Schism, Jamming Tower and Tool Scrapper can be problems, so I limited it to 1. Also, with the Area 0 inclusion, Chien-Pao is always a consideration, though you won't see it in the list I'm showing off. Because I enjoy my decks being as smooth as my feet, I went with the Lily's version of Lily's Clefairy. You play 4 each of Clefairy and Ogerpon, as well as 4 Energy Switch, 4 Ultra Ball, and 3 Meowth. If you don't have a good turn 1 with all that, then PDCGL truly hates you. Additionally, Cypher Maniac stacks 2 cards on top of your deck ahead of a Kangaskhan or Fezandipiti, and Mist Energy might give you a chance against Alakazam. Naturally, there is a version with Wellspring Masked Ogerpon to snipe the bench. Enjoy this visual while I tell you that Clefairy Terra Box doesn't add 1 copy of Special Red card with Chaos Rising. It adds 2. Very unique, I know. And I'm spent. If you're wondering where Garchomp is, that's probably the 11th best deck post-rotation. so maybe I'll do another video if enough people DM me feat pics. Until then, check the description for as many deck lists as I can fit with the rest in the comments. You also don't have to wait long to play any of these decks, as rotation comes to Pokemon TCG Live on March 26th and IRL on April 10th. I'll be streaming Perfect Order decks on day 1, beginning with Mega Zygarde, who will break my heart by ironically flipping 0 heads and nullifying my desire to ever play a coin flip deck again.